Hi everybody! Here are some books that you should read if you are a Hufflepuff. If you've been following me on my channel, you know I've been going through all of the Hogwarts houses to recommend books to the various members of those houses, and today is Hufflepuff Day, and we're going to be going through some books that I think Hufflepuffs should read. Number one on that list may surprise some people, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I think this is a great book for Hufflepuffs. It's a great book about a Hufflepuff going on an adventure, because if you argue with me that Bilbo Baggins is not a Hufflepuff, I will fight you. I think he's intelligent and endearing, and I think it's an awesome book about how Hufflepuffs can be heroes too, because they're so underrated and just kind of like the leftover house, and I think that's not true. They have great qualities of their loyalty, and they have their own level of bravery too. They just aren't flashy and showy about it, and Bilbo Baggins is exactly that. Read this book if you haven't already. It's amazing. The next book that I recommend to Hufflepuffs is called Ruby Red, which is the first in a trilogy about a girl who's from a time-traveling family. I think Hufflepuffs will enjoy this book because of the story of friendship that's in it, as well as a great romantic story. And again, it's a fun adventure for Hufflepuffs to go on. This girl has some interesting adventures throughout time and has to compete against like her pseudo-evil family members who are like trying to change the past, and there's a mystery to it, and it's just a fun series that I think it brings a smile to your face when you think about it. Plus there aren't a lot of YA time traveling books anyway. Then I'm gonna put in here To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han as a book that Hufflepuff should read as well. And I put this one in here because not of the romance aspect. I put it in here because of Laura Jean's devotion and love to her family, and the fact that this book series does center around family and growing up as well, I think is a perfect example of the well-roundedness of Hufflepuffs, as well as the fact that their stories are more often than it seems, because on the surface this book just seems like a contemporary romance YA novel, which it is, but that doesn't discount the fact that it's still about family and growing up and family dynamics, you know, as well as loss, because she does lose her mother and overcoming what the results of that are as you continue to grow up. Hufflepuffs, read this one. Then I also put in here Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, which is basically about a Hufflepuff coming out of her shell. This friend Emily has a friend Sloane who goes away mysteriously and leaves her a list of things that she needs to do over the summer, like go apple picking, or go skinny dipping, or kiss somebody named Jamie, or all these other things that are incredible and fun and amazing. And again, she gets such good friends out of this summer and out of this book, and the loyalty there is inspiring and cool, and it makes me think of like my own group of friends and own adventures that we've had. I just really enjoyed this book a lot. Although it's very similar to Paper Towns, not in the same way. I would recommend this one over Paper Towns to Hufflepuffs, and if you want to see more on that, check out my These Books Are the Same video. That also being said, I feel like I have to throw Fangirl in here. Kath is a quintessential Hufflepuff, in my opinion. She might be a borderline Ravenclaw, but that being said, she has her own style of coming out of her shell, of connecting with people in a world that she loves and is creative and interesting, and yet she doesn't necessarily show it. She's not flashy about it. She loves to be loyal to her family and eventually to the boys and friends she meets, and I just feel like this is a great representation of somebody who's able to break out of their shell and be a good, awesome person without being showy and flashy about it, which I think is a part of Hufflepuffs in general. I'm gonna throw nonfiction in there because I haven't done that yet, and that is This Star Won't Go Out by Esther Earl and her mother Lori Earl. This is a collection of Esther Earl's journal entries as well as letters and conversations she had with her mother. Esther Earl is the girl that John Green met that inspired him to write The Fault in Our Stars, was part of it. He dedicated the book to her, and Hazel Grace has the same type of cancer that Esther died from, and it's a fascinating story. He wrote the foreword in this book as well, and it's just a great representation of a young girl who lived her life, and the fact that she was only like 13, 14 years old when she passed, yet still lived and loved and had such great life, again, with her friends online and her family. Sorry, I get very overwhelmed when I think about this book. I feel like I need to reread it soon. Then I'm going to put out there James and the Giant Peach, which may seem like an oldie but a goodie, because this book, I mean, come on, like friendship out the wazoo, and the loyalty that James has to those bugs, and the imagination and the creativity, and how he just creates this bond with them, but he in his own right is coming out of his shell and amazingly finding his way in this world through this crazy adventure of James and the Giant Peach. Through a giant peach with a bunch of bugs and magic. What could be better? I put another nonfiction in here because I didn't want to just put all contemporaries, which is what was like I was heavily leaning towards as I was trying to compile this list, and that's The Diary of Anne Frank. This may seem like a brutal pick for Hufflepuffs, whose hearts are generally a little bit more tender in the Hufflepuffs that I've met, but Hufflepuffs are strong, and I think that they can love this book and appreciate Anne Frank and what she did during this time period and her courage and her bravery, but not in a Ravenclaw sense, because Hufflepuffs are courageous and brave in their own right, but again, they're not flashy about it. Anne Frank became this like untold hero of history that she just had no idea that she was going to become such an influential figure in World War II and in our lives as children, and having to read this for required reading, and nobody knew. She didn't know that everybody was going to know her name. She didn't. She just wrote. And that's how she became a hero. Quiet, unsung. And I love that. I think it's perfect for Hufflepuffs. This one is also going to seem like a weird recommendation, but I'm going to recommend Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children because of the loyalty of these children and the loyalty of Mrs. Peregrine to her children and her inspiring way of keeping this family together and yet presenting their uniqueness and saying it's okay to be weird and different. It's kind of like Foster's Home for Imaginary Children in a weird way of like, come to me, all of you little oddballs, which is sometimes how Hufflepuffs feel. Is kind of like, even in one of the Sorting House's songs, he says about how Helga Hufflepuff just kind of took the rest, which I feel like is kind of this interesting group of children. You know, they just kind of were the odd men's out. So Miss Peregrine said, come to me. And they all stick together because of it. I love that. That's so cool. Finally is a book called The Porcupine of Truth, which I put on here because my friend recommended it to me, and she said that it would be perfect for Hufflepuffs all around. It is about two best friends who go on a road trip in search for a relative, and a porcupine is with them. And I don't know very much about this book, but I know that it's on my TBR, and I know that I'm very excited to read it, and I think that you guys should read it with me too, for all you Hufflepuffs out there, with a fun take on friendship and a road trip story. Who doesn't love a good road trip story? I'm a big fan of those. And, you know, a porcupine, which is cute, and always makes me think of Stargirl for some reason because of the porcupine ties. But that's a book for another video. Here are some of the books that I recommend to you if you are a Hufflepuff to read. If you are a Hufflepuff, let me know some of your favorite books down in the comments below. Also, what books do you think that Hufflepuff should read? Until next time, guys, bye! Side pony. Why are you falling apart? Whenever I think of side ponies, I always think of Napoleon Dynamite.